you're going to be using the Precari Sweat, which is just, a liquid form of carbohydrate. Like there's no gels. Like I thought that was interesting. And then Boston is the Martin gel, and London is going to be this Lucozade Sport. And I believe you can get all of those on Amazon, and I can follow up with you guys. If you wanted to try it, you might have to buy, I think it was the Precari Sweat. You have to buy that in like massive bulk. I think that was the issue. So I don't know how ideal that would be. We could talk more about that, and I can give you my opinion on what to do in those situations.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting. Every marathon has different type of drink.
And normally,
what about New York? Do we have still Gatorade?
I think it was Gatorade. And I always, I like to tell athletes to use what's on the course, but not if it's like those weird products that you're just not used to, and it may not be worth it. You might just find that carrying the stuff that you normally train with is just the way to go, and you don't have to switch and use their stations. And also, I can't remember Tokyo's, how often they're doing the fueling. I feel like in the US, it's very generous with their fueling. And in other countries, it's just not as abundant.
Yeah, I think it may be even every 5K.
Right. That's actually not so bad, but that's for water too. So it's like a little bit of a different system.
Yeah, we're used in New York, I think you get every mile. You get at least access to water. Yeah. All right. So let's everyone welcome Amy Stephens, our nutritionist and dietitian. She's presented with us for actually now several seasons. All right. She's a big source of wealth of knowledge in her area of expertise, and we are more than happy to have her.
So I'm going to share my screen, and let's see if I can do this real simply. Sorry if there's any. Okay, let's get that up. And then here we go. So can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. My slides is what I meant. So, and how long do you want me to talk for, Coach?
Just maybe 20 minutes, as long as you need, and then we can just do a Q&A. And that's it.
Got it. I'm going to keep track of the time. So I created a lot of extra slides, and I may not get to them. I can always go over those another time, or I could send those to the coach and you guys can take a look at those. This is for you guys. If you have questions, feel free to jot those down or message me after. I'm happy to answer those, or after the talk. I'm happy to address as many as I can as well. So marathon fueling is the topic. And here's the overview of the presentation so you know what to expect. We're going to go over runner's fuel, how to eat before and after workouts. These are common questions that I've been asked a lot, and I just compiled, over all of my experience with marathon runners, what are the most common questions. Fueling a marathon, what to look for in a gel, how to use caffeinated gels, and that's if we get to this extra part at the end, blood work, and iron for runners. So we're just going to start for fuel for runners. What do runners need to eat in order to run a marathon? So carbohydrates are your main source of energy. And I know there's so much controversial information, and there's so much information about keto diets and all different types of eating plans. But for now, the science really supports that carbohydrates are your main source of fuel to support running. They convert the quickest into usable energy. Now, you could try and rely on fat, but you'd have to go at a slower pace. And I don't think that's the whole purpose of what we're doing. We're trying to run as fast as possible. So your body needs carbohydrates because it also restocks your glycogen. Protein is also really important. It repairs damaged muscle tissue and boosts the immune system. Fats are also extremely important in your diet because they carry all the fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, and they're responsible for hormone production, which also can help keep you strong and healthy throughout a marathon training cycle. So we need all of those nutrients that fit into our diet to keep us healthy. So let's jump into fueling a workout. So this is always a challenge because many of you might exercise after work. So you have this whole day of eating, and it really can be It's not as always static because your lunch might be thrown off at a different time, or maybe you don't prepare enough food. So fueling a workout, here are the basics that you need to keep in mind. If your run is less than 70 minutes, food is optional. So whether it's in the morning run or midday or in the afternoon, if it's under 70 minutes, your body has enough fuel from glycogen to support that exercise. So you don't have to eat. So less than 70 minutes, food is optional. And I say optional because if you are so hungry from the workout the day before, or maybe you just feel more hungry because you didn't eat a big enough breakfast or a meal before, you can eat if you feel that you need it. So it's optional. If you're running more or working out more than 70 minutes, you do need carbohydrate. And really, it's like 30 to 60 grams of carb per hour, plus fluids and electrolytes. So those are the long run days, like on the weekends, or if you're doing a long tempo workout during the week, that would also be a great time to start practicing your fueling while you're running at a marathon pace. So greater than 70 minutes, you need to fuel. You need to fuel before and you need to fuel during. So the timing, how to fuel before. 2 to 4 hours before your run, you can eat a meal. So if it's a Sunday morning with the group, you're not getting up at 5 a.m. to get in your food. So, if you're eating closer to the start time, it's 1 hour before. You want something more like a snack. So maybe like play around with it. Maybe you could do a piece of toast, even with some peanut butter. That might be okay for you to digest and have enough time to get that, to feel comfortable by the time you start. You don't need a big breakfast if you're waking up too late to start your run. I would recommend you start practicing those long run days as your marathon day and see what foods feel the best. Is it oatmeal? Is it a bagel? Is it something else? Is it a smoothie of some kind? So start practicing now, and that means you have to wake up a little bit earlier in order to allow that food to digest. If you eat too much, too close to the start, you're going to get a stomach ache, or you can get like a lot of GI issues, and we don't want that. 15 minutes before, like if you feel like you didn't eat enough at your breakfast, or if it's during the week and it's before practice on a Wednesday night, you need a quick carb. Something like gels, gummies, sports drinks, those are all great to have on hand, and have some of that before you start your track workout with Coach. And you really want to get to these sessions fueled and hydrated. If you are not fueled, and you've all probably experienced this one time or another, if you're not fueled, you just don't have all the energy to get through those reps. And it's frustrating. So we want to just make sure that the nutrition is on top of, is aligned with your training. So how to recover after a workout? Recovery is really important because especially if you're logging lots of miles, or you're exercising back-to-back days, you need your body to start recovery as quickly as possible. So there's something called the glycogen window, in which your body right after a workout is primed to absorb nutrients. So you want to have nutrients available. So right after a workout, you want to eat foods that are like complex carbs and protein, such as chocolate milk, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, yogurt and granola, or like eggs and toast, or if it's like later in the day and it's dinner time, like a burrito. If you're going to Wednesday practice, then prep the food so when you come in the door, it's ready to go and you're not waiting. There's no delay. Try and eat as close as you can. And if you do have to cook food, or if you're feeling nauseous after a hard workout, eat something light, or like take one of these recovery drinks, and just get in some carbohydrate. And then you can shower and relax a little bit and then eat your proper meal. But I would definitely, doing nothing is the worst thing you can do. Overall diet, I think this is also important to address. People ask me all the time, like, what should I be eating as a marathon runner? Focus on nutritious foods, like nutrient-dense foods that provide a lot of carbohydrates, proteins, fats. You want to make sure that every bite you take of food, it's offering some benefit. Runners need more nutrients than if you were just sitting and not doing anything. Your body needs a lot more. Your breaking down muscle, you're building muscle, you're breaking down your glycogen and rebuilding. So you want to have the best nutrients available when you rebuild, and then you will rebuild stronger and be better for the next round. So, also overall diet's important. Like if you're eating out a lot, eating out can have a much higher fat content. Like if you make food versus like eating, that same food in a restaurant, they may use more oils or fats, or ingredients that are not as healthy. And it can make you feel really full or bloated and uncomfortable. And then it's hard to get in the other nutrients that your body needs. So eating home is definitely, I recommend it as much as you can. So let's talk about how to fuel during an endurance event. How much carbohydrate does your body need? So on those shorter runs, like less than an hour and a half or like 70 minutes, carbohydrates are optional. You don't really need to have any carbohydrates on the shorter runs. And hydration, you can, if it's warmer, or if you feel like your body is a little dehydrated going in, then you can have some fluids. On the longer run, when you're getting upwards of an hour and a half to 3, so this is probably something like a half marathon, or like a long training run, again, 30 to 60 grams of carb per hour is ideal. That's what's been studied. So you might be, start at 30 and see how your body feels if you've never really fueled. And if you are used to fueling and you feel pretty good, try and push it up. Maybe you're getting in 50 grams of carb an hour. Maybe you can get it closer to 60. And that's with using gels, booze, and sports drinks. So if you use some Gatorade as well as a gel, like that all counts towards your total of carbohydrate. You don't want to take too much. And you want to definitely practice to see how your body feels. When you're running at those higher paces, your body's going to have a hard time breaking those carbs down. So you want to at least practice to know what that feels like. And more is not better. So don't just start doing like 90 grams of carb an hour if you have not practiced that. So now is your time to really use that along with your training runs to see how that feels. And then, the studies show that on the longer runs, like marathons that are over 3 hours, which is most of us, it's saying even like 60 to 80 grams of carb an hour is optimal. I would just say like that to me is a lot. I would just see how much you can get in. See if you can get close to like 50 to 60 and see how your body feels. You know that you're fueling well if that last kick of your run feels pretty good. If you're crashing, then I would say you need to have your fueling plan adjusted. And the other thing with this that I think is really important to note is you want to start your fueling plan early. You don't want to wait until you're feeling lousy. So fuel early and often. That's the best way to prevent hitting the wall and delays fatigue. So gels and goos. I get a lot of questions about like, what's the difference? What am I looking for? So really the most important thing that I think is the carbs. Like how many grams of carb are in those and how do those align with what your goal is per hour? Let's say you're trying to hit like 50 grams of carb an hour. This product has 25, so you may want to have 2 of these an hour. That would be closer to what you're trying to reach. I also look at sodium because that's an electrolyte and that can also be helpful with hydration. This particular product has 34 milligrams. That's not a lot. You're looking more for like 200 to 300 milligrams, or at least 100 is a little bit better. This product to me means that you would probably need to be taking like an electrolyte supplement somewhere else or in a separate container. Calories are not as important, but it is something I look at. It's 100 calories. And then I look at the ingredients, which are not necessarily important because most of these products are all designed to cover your glucose and your fructose, which help optimize your performance. So carbohydrate fueling options. Here are all the different products that I just pulled a bunch of them to show you that how different they are. And you can use anything, whatever feels right for your body. Maybe you like to chew the blocks or the gummies, or maybe you like the Martin gels. I would say try a few different ones especially if you've never had them before. You can also use different ones along your race. Like you can start with a goo and maybe like halfway through your race, there's like a special flavor that you love and it's something that you look forward to. maybe then you can start having a different product halfway through, and then maybe towards the end you want to start your caffeine. So, there's lots of options, and you can fuel based on how your body feels. Most people, I would say, pick one gel that they like, that feels good, and they stick with it. So what I was talking about on the course, I think is really important, because if, like Martin is on the Boston course, the Martin gels. So what's nice about that is you just don't have to carry as many things if that product is on the course. So maybe you build it in and you can like carry maybe 2, and then you can grab a couple at every station and you're just totally good with your gels. That might be something you want to do. I'm definitely going to try that for my next Boston. And then, so those international ones like Tokyo had that Procari sweat. So that's just another type of fueling product. You can order that and try it. I would love to hear how that goes. And I'm actually interested in trying it myself. I might do that. It's just, different forms of carbohydrate. There's not one that's superior, and you need to just see how your body feels with those products if you're looking to use them. Nothing new on race day. I could say that over and over. Don't grab things don't grab bananas or oranges or whatever's offered on the courses, on these international courses or any course, if you've never tried it before. So let's touch on caffeine. How to use caffeine on race day. I get this question a lot, so I wanted to incorporate it. So caffeine is great. It can definitely improve performance and helps delay fatigue, and it reduces your perceived exertion, which is awesome. So how to use it? Ideally, you take it like an hour before your start time, or maybe with your pre-race meal. The maximum amount you really want to have per day is around 400 milligrams. A cup of coffee, like a small from Starbucks, is around 200 milligrams, just to give you some perspective. So you don't need a venti. Like, don't do that, especially if you've never done that before. Too much can cause a lot of side effects like jitteriness, GI issues, shakiness, and it can really disrupt your race and performance. I would recommend, and I put the Martin gel here. I listed a few of them that have caffeine. That Martin gel is 100 milligrams. So that might be great to have like maybe 1 or 2 during the race if you started with a small coffee. So that kind of just gives you an idea of like, where to start and see how that feels for you. And then like the other gels, Honey Stinger has 32 milligrams of caffeine. The Roctane Cold Brew has 70. And then all the other Roctane caffeinated are like around 35. So really test it out and see how that feels. I had one athlete, he took too much and he was just really shaky, and it really disrupted his race. As I mentioned, too much is harmful. It causes a lot of issues that you do not want to be having while you're trying to exert yourself through the 26.2 marathon journey. Race day weather, as it gets closer to your race day, you want to check your weather, obviously, and you want to see what kind of conditions we're dealing with. We can talk about that like maybe at a later time. I don't want to get into too much detail on that because it's so far off, but definitely race weather is going to affect how you hydrate and your performance. Blood work. This is important. If you do get blood work done, if you are seeing your doctor, you can ask to have these labs pulled up. Or if you're not feeling good, make sure your doctor adds these labs. Ferritin is really important because then it gives us an idea of your iron stores in your body. Iron is important because it carries oxygen, and oxygen helps you to run fast. It converts all of the glucose into usable energy in your body and fuels you. So you need to have a lot of ferritin and iron. Vitamin D is extremely important because it helps absorb calcium. And vitamin B12 for vegetarian or vegan athletes is really important. Again, on iron, and I mention this because I oftentimes will hear from athletes, they don't feel good, and it's like they're midway through their training cycle and they're fatigued and they think it's overtraining, which it could be partially, but then they get their iron tested and their levels are really low. And it takes like 3 weeks or more for those levels to get corrected. And so if you have a history of low iron, you definitely want to be on top of that. Running drops your iron. Symptoms of low iron are fatigue, dizziness, unable to finish a workout. At-risk populations, female athletes, vegetarian or vegan diets, if you've had low iron in the past, or if you've had an eating disorder or currently have an eating disorder. Food sources, which I'll get to more. Here are the best foods that have iron. Meat, fish, and poultry are the best and most highly absorbed sources. So like grilled chicken, salmon, steak, sardines, those are all awesome. Plants have iron too, and beans, but not all of it is absorbed. So it might be a little harder to meet your nutritional needs. Supplements are also great, and there's lots of different ones out there. Happy to discuss that. If you have any questions about it, definitely let me know. Fluid requirements, super important, because if you're dehydrated, it's going to affect your performance. Symptoms are things like dizziness, nausea, stomach aches, cramping, headaches, such a variety of different symptoms that can occur. And it's hard to pinpoint what the issue is. And, you can just check in with yourself. If you're having any of those symptoms, you can say, well, when's the last time I drank? Did I drink enough fluids? So the best way to know you're hydrated is before a run, start your run hydrated by drinking like 8 to 15 ounces about an hour before. Don't wait until you're at the track and start chugging water. That's not going to help you. That'll just make it slosh in your stomach. You want to sip fluids very slowly so they can get digested. During your activity, 3 to 7 ounces every 20 minutes and more in the warmer conditions. You still need to hydrate in the winter months because you're sweating, especially if you start a workout with too many clothes and items on your body, you're going to sweat more. So you might lose more fluid than you actually anticipated, and you can get stomach aches from that. So electrolytes, this is another question I got. I'll touch on this and then I'll gradually wrap it up. So electrolytes are important because they help replace fluids that are lost in sweat. If you do not sweat a lot and you're not a big sweater, then you don't need to take in as many electrolytes. If you do sweat and you know that you sweat more than the average person, then you absolutely need to be using electrolytes. Electrolytes help hold on to the water in your body. If you just drink water without the electrolytes, the water will go through your body and it will not stay in the places that you want it to. So like I said, if you're a heavy sweater, take electrolytes before exercise. So those are the products. Those are some examples on the right side. Liquid IV, Noon, salt sticks. There's so many products. What's the other one? LMNT. There's so many different ones. But really, the point of that is to replace the electrolytes that you lose from exercise. So once you've replaced it, then you don't have to keep drinking them all day. You don't have to be walking around with Noon in your water bottles all the time. It's only to replace the sweat that you lose during a workout. So start with 200 to 400 milligrams per hour, see how you feel, and then make sure you're drinking water. Because if you don't, then you'll get a really bad headache, which I just did the other day. So how to know if you're hydrated? In the winter months, it's a little harder because you're not physically sweating. You have steam heat, dry heat. Your body's losing water by the heat and by the dryness outside. So your urine color is really the best way to know your hydration status. You should be urinating frequently, like once every couple of hours, I think is reasonable, and it should be pale yellow. So not clear. If your urine is clear, you can back off on the water. So this will be the last slide, the do's and don'ts. These are my top 3 do's and don'ts for someone that is putting in a lot of miles. So do eat enough on recovery days. That is something I hear, like recovery days are the days after your harder efforts. So for you guys, Monday would be a recovery day. Thursday is a recovery day. Even if you're not exercising a lot, you still need to eat to replenish what you used the day before. So make sure to eat enough. Stock your fridge. Keep that fridge stocked with some basic ingredients, eggs, toast, like have all the different nutrients always available. If you're eating well, you have to constantly be shopping. That's just the way it is. For fruits, I like frozen fruits. I think that's a really easy way to cut corners. You don't have to constantly shop. Plus, it's less expensive. Plan easy weeknight meals instead of relying on eating out. So after Medina workouts, like make sure that you have that burrito already prepped, or maybe it's leftovers from Tuesday night. have that ready to go so you can have this awesome workout and recover with some nutritious foods. So the don'ts, don't focus only on protein. And I put that there because I hear that so often, that my athletes are all using protein powders, focusing on tons of protein. It's not about protein to fuel your runs. It is carbohydrates. Don't forget to hydrate throughout the day. So you can't cram in your nutrition. As it gets closer, and we've all done this. It's like you kind of forget that you have to fuel your body, and then it gets closer to the time that you need to do your performance or your run, and you start drinking and eating everything. You can't cram like you would for a test. Your body doesn't work like that. You have to eat evenly throughout the week, throughout the day, in order to maximize your performance. And also, don't compare your eating plan to anyone else. You are training for a marathon, and you need to eat what is supportive to you and your body, and your coworkers or your friends, family, especially coming into the holidays. They can eat what is supportive to them, and you need to eat what is supportive for you. And everyone eats differently, and that is totally fine. So try not to compare. And I'm going to end on that because I think that's a good place to end.
All right. Thank you so much, Amy. So if anyone has any questions, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can call upon you and you can ask your question. Does anyone have any specific question that they would like to begin with or thoughts? While you think about your questions, I'd like to just remind you that you can also follow Amy on Instagram. Like, I like to just follow like her Instagram. She posts a lot of very useful information, a lot of the things that you even just discussed here. And I will encourage them also to send you questions via Instagram. So if you have any questions, I think you can always also send her via Instagram or even email her. I think she's very responsive to that. And it just helps because, there's like a question that you may not thought of now, then you can ask it later. All right, Alan has a question. Go for it, Alan.
What do you think of the Martin's got these claims of this hydrogel? I've used the gel myself. I kind of like it because it works with my stomach. But what do you think of their claims of it being better because it contains water or something like that?
Because it contains what? What is the ingredient that you're saying?
Because it contains a hydrogel, it's more has more liquid or something in it.
Yeah, I've been using those. I've used all the different gels. I like it too. I don't think one gel is superior to another. I think it's what feels good for your body. I think it's a taste preference. I think it's if you can get past that Jell-O consistency, if that works for you, then I think that's, I don't think there's anything in those products that I think are superior. The hydrogel, I don't see anything with the hydrogel that makes it any superior than any of the others. It's a preference. I think all of the gels are preferences. I don't see any one gel being so superior based on their ingredients. They're all made with pretty good ingredients. I would look for the ones that have the fewest ingredients. If they start adding in stuff, it's like, I don't know how that's going to react in your body. You just want glucose and, fructose. That is what you need, the basics. If we can have an IV that was just into our vein, just giving us dextrose, we'd all be amazing runners.
Thank you. Great question, Alan. Anyone else has any questions? I do. How about can you mention something about like creatine? Like, I remember that was a topic last season, and I did some reading on it, and so I would like to hear your point of view and things like that.
Yeah, creatine's a great question, and I can even address all supplements. So my philosophy is that you don't need a lot of stuff to run well. Focus on the running and eating whole foods. Creatine has been shown to help with recovery, and it helps with the muscle contraction. So if you're doing weights and you're looking to, I think it's like 800 meters and under, if you're looking for that quick muscle contraction, then that type of supplement can be beneficial. But if you're looking to run a marathon over a long period of time, it's not been shown to help. Plus, it increases your weight. It can increase your weight by 2 to 7 kilos. No, 2 to 3 kilos. 7's a lot. 2 to 3 kilos, which is not what you want to be doing, adding on weight when you're running 26.2. So I don't find it as beneficial for long distance runners, and the studies are not there. And supplements. So let's touch on that. So supplements, the biggest problem I have with them is that they are not regulated by the FDA. There is no one that is looking to see what is in these products. I could literally make creatine in my garage and sell it to you and tell you that creatine is in it. And I can tell you, make a really fun label and tell you all the benefits. No one is there to check what is in this product. So I am a little concerned for all the products. I usually say, take what you need. So like iron or B12. I have a few brands that are third-party tested, and you can look at the labels. They have like a US, USP is one of the labels, or NSF. And those labels will indicate that it had third-party testing, which is they submitted it to this lab, and the lab looked at different lots to see what was in the product and that there was nothing harmful. But they still can't tell if there's how much creatine is in it. They'll just say that nothing was added to it that can cause harm. That's it. I know, it's crazy. There's no regulation, but yet it is the biggest industry that, I've seen products with so many claims. If they really can do all those amazing things, I think we would be a lot healthier than we are right now. So I just find it hard to believe. If something sounds too good to be true, then just be skeptical and ask questions, and feel free to ask me. I'm happy to read any study, any literature. I'm always open to learn more, but I haven't seen anything that I'm totally convinced about.
Thank you. Any other questions there? All right then. If there are no questions, again, I encourage you all to shoot Amy a message via the Instagram or email, and just look at her content there. It's quite helpful. And well, thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Good to see everyone. Good to see